It's Rosie! Woo!
Hi.
Welcome!
Hi.
Are you tuning
Hi,
in from
Sammy.
Germany today?
I am indeed.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
This truly is
Yeah.
a global collective. You're all over the world. And those watching, hello to those of you that are tuning in right now. Let us know, where are you coming from? Where are you tuning in from today? Rosie, I absolutely loved your chapter. I'm very privileged in that I get to read all of the chapters before they go out. I'm part of the editing process and the coming up with the ideas and everything to go into them. And, I just feel so blessed that I get this kind of first peek behind the curtain as to what everyone's sharing. I love the activity that you've shared in your book as well, or in your chapter of the book. And of course, you are already a published author with the book you published it feels like a few months ago, but earlier this year, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in March. I can't believe it myself. Second book coming out now. It's just crazy.
Yeah, well, I want to
It's
talk
crazy.
more about the first book, because that tells us a lot about who you are and about your journey. And I really want to encourage everybody to go buy that book as well. I was very privileged to write the foreword for that. But your journey, when we talk about don't be afraid to build something bigger than you, I think there's a lot of people that are tuning in now, that are either watching or listening in, who have maybe played smaller than they have the capacity to be showing up in the world, or through this process are recognizing, oh shoot, I actually thought that I was really putting myself out of my comfort zone. And when I look at all of your stories in this book, I realize there's a way bigger part of me that I have yet to meet. And let's talk about that kind of being afraid to go bigger, to leap further. Take us back to a time when you had that, because I know there'll be millions of times that you've experienced that. And of course, your story in the book will demonstrate what you're up to now, which is really taking you out of your comfort zone. So take us back to another one of those times, the story behind the story.
Well, I think that's been, in my life, there have been 2 or 3 of these sort of key moments where I just had to believe it was gonna work, and so one of my things is, realizing that what you're feeling is a little bit of fear of risk, but, and I say a big but, the fear of, why is the fear of risk there? It's because it's there to help you and to make you go beyond your boundaries. And so I think coming to Germany was the first time when I was in my very early 20s, came here all on my own, didn't know where I was going, could hardly speak the language. And that, that was a real adventure. And it was also scary, and I think the second one was not getting married. That was not scary. No, I think that the biggest one after that was building my own business, of course. Taking on all sorts of responsibilities, all sorts of financial responsibilities, which scared the out of me. And I think then, the one that I talk about in my book that you just mentioned, Finding Closure, is the one about, finding my birth family. I mean, there's a big risk in that. But if you really want something, you have to go beyond that. And then, as I say, now is just right now, I'm starting a new, what should we say, a new adventure almost, which is also, pretty scary, but also it will be very rewarding.
I think, you know, what the interesting thing, and like having worked with you for a long time on the programs and the brand and everything, what's really, really fun for me is witnessing those oh frick moments and then seeing you normalize them. Like when, like this idea, which Rosie talks about in the book, which is a good opportunity for a little plug for the book. Come on, guys, share that link. Make sure you've bought the book. If you haven't bought it for someone else yet, go buy it for someone else too. Pay it forward. So you talk about this story, the big story in the book itself, but you know, just to allude to that a little bit, I remember you telling me about that idea only a couple of weeks ago. It was like maybe 2-3 weeks ago. You talked about the idea and your eyes were wide open like a rabbit in the headlights, like, oh my gosh, I've got this opportunity. Wow. You know, and then look at you now, 3 weeks later, you've normalized most of it. And now it's just got to do that. You know, it's just a to-do list. It's just a tick list, isn't it? A to-do list that, okay, well, I've got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, got to, you know, and it's kind of, you're putting all the structure to it now, but it's just so fun for me to witness those rabbit in headlight moments. I mean, you witnessed mine too. It's like, whoa, I've got this opportunity. Off we go. And it always feels so kind of raw and a bit unreal, and also what if. You know, it's so easy to go into the negative what ifs, isn't it, when you have that opportunity that is bigger than your current reality. But then it's so quick in normalizing it. Talk about that process a little bit for those that are thinking of doing something bigger, but the thought of it, it's just the very thought of it, of how things are going to change, how things have to change, because to create that, there are some things that we need to give up, right?
Yeah. I think you've said something, you've talked about something that's very, very on point here, and that is all these what ifs. Now, if we didn't have these what ifs, we would jump in where fools do not dare to tread, you know. Can't get the actual expression, but where fools, you know, jump in. And I think
it's that, where fools rush in, isn't it? I think that's the term, where fools rush in.
I can't remember the actual, but but the idea is, you know, if you don't have these what ifs, they're almost like a to-do list on their own. So, you know, you have this what if. Okay, so if you have a what if, you can deal with it because you know what it is. You know your thought process lets it develop, lets it, you know, and thinking about the what ifs leads you to your solutions. When you say it's normalized, it hasn't normalized, Sammy. I'm still I'm still pretty scared of what it's going to be because it's getting bigger by the moment. But I have to say that, you know, because we have these what ifs, we can then say, okay, well, what if this happens? Okay, then I need to put this in place. What if this happens? Okay, do I have a plan for that? So these what ifs are almost little helpers in themselves.
When you're thinking about speaking, for example, you know, you can think about what if I go up and fail? What if I fall over on the stairs on the way up? What if I forget all of my content? What if people love what I'm talking about and they run to the back of the room and then my lead magnet fails? Or, you know, you could go through all of those what ifs. And then there's the other side of that, of what if it's the best thing I've ever done? What if I deliver in flow in the moment and it like everybody's wowed and that becomes my story? And the what if this is brilliant? What if I win an award? What you can go to any of the what ifs, can't you? But I love what you said there is, you know, what if I trip up on the way up the stairs? Well, that what if is now conscious in your mind, that you can say, okay, I'm going to be more careful as I walk up the stairs. I'm going to be more elegant, more graceful. I'm going to do it slower. There's no need to rush. So it can, like you say, not only bring warnings, but it can create even more success for you if you do dare to tap into them a little bit more, instead of like poo-poo, oh no, it'll be fine. Because now you've ignored the problem.
Yeah. So I think it's, it's a matter of, what if it fails? I can think that way, but I can also think, what if it doesn't fail? What if it's a success? So I think that's the attitude we need to have. And I have something that I do, and that is when I get completely flustered, when I get over my head in all the things I have to do, I then ask myself, okay, if I don't do this today, what if I don't do this today? Am I going to die? And funnily enough, the answer is always no. So that helps me not to get quite so overwhelmed with some of the tasks that are coming up. What if I do it tomorrow? Okay, that'll be fine. So these what ifs are there to give us a little poke.
Yeah, love it. And so can fear be. Fear can be real. You can have a real bear in front of you. It's very natural to feel fear in that moment. Let's dive into your chapter in Catalyst of Change for a moment, because you say this in the book, which is brilliant. Fear can be powerful, gripping us with the what ifs. Every step forward seemed to trigger a new set of worries. What if it doesn't work? What if I put everything into this and it fails? What if people don't like it? The voice of doubt was persistent, always waiting to chip away at my confidence. Can you elaborate on that? We've talked about what ifs, but for those people that are watching or listening, tuning in, who have something that feels like a very real fear, and what if the what if strategy isn't working? What else can they do?
Well, I think you need to, you really, really, really need to focus on the positives. So I think one of the things I might do would be to get myself some, for example, get myself some Post-its. And, for every Post-it that I have that says, oh, what if my investment doesn't, there's no return on my investment, or what if I'm not good enough, which is very often the case, then to take your fear and then make another Post-it in a different color, positive color, maybe pink or something like that, and then write on there what will happen if it does work, and then concentrate on that color, concentrate on that thought. Because that's the thought which will lead you to where you want to get.
That's such a good idea, because it also it makes it more physical. So instead of the what ifs being in your mind, which you can, devil and angel fighting to the death, it takes it out of your mind, puts it right in front of you, where probably I'm guessing your logical brain would then step in and say, well, of course, that obviously is the option. That's where it's going to go. Yeah. And I suppose that then becomes more visionary, because now you can start imagining the best case scenario actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, I could give you an example of, for example, when you're looking at something, you need to get financed by somebody. You need to maybe you start with the bank, and you think it through, and then you say, but what if the bank says no? So if you didn't have that what if, you'd go to the bank, they'd say no, and you'd be devastated.
Right.
So if you think about it before, then you can say, okay, so if the bank doesn't want to, help me with the whole sum, would they help me with part of the sum? Would I be able to get somebody else to help me with part of the sum? Could I get an investor? Could I get somebody who, has a share in what I'm doing? So if you didn't have this what if, and you didn't think about this what if, you would have no more alternatives.
Right.
So that will trigger the alternatives.
That's so good. Such a good idea. Well, Rosie, I want everyone to get a real flavor for you and who you are behind the chapter. Now, you support many people all over the world to become very influential using language as a way of breaking down barriers and building bridges, sometimes cross-culturally, sometimes even within the organization. But you and I had a chat in the bar once after one of our events when you were talking about your journey, your actual life journey. And I saw the absolute connection between those. It was like, well, of course, it makes sense that you are supporting people to build community and to fit in and to be accepted for who they are, wherever they're going. It makes sense to me because you grew up with the opposite of that, where you never felt accepted. You always were the outsider. You felt like the outsider, and inside, I think you kind of knew that you were in the situation you were in. And this also alludes to your other book as well, Finding Closure. Tell the audience a little bit about that.
Well, I think it's really important to know who you are, and to know who you are. You know, quite honestly, you're nobody without the people around you. Because the people around you are the ones that love you, support you, even, sort of have discussions with you, have arguments with you even, but they are the people, and it could be the teachers at the school, it could be anywhere. And these are people that will shape you. And being an adopted child, as I was, or I am still, it was something that you grow up with, wondering, who are you? Where do I get certain characteristics from? Why is my character this way? And always the question of nurture against nature, or nature against nurture, I suppose I should put it that way, because nature comes first. But it's always a matter of who am I, and how can I see who I really am, and how can I accept who I am? And if I get ideas that I want to change who I am, do I need to? These are always the questions that are in your head. And I mean, the bridge there really to languages is that when you are acting, when you're doing business, say, in another language, you're not quite who you are, because what's coming out of your mouth may not be exactly as you want it to. And that's what I work with most of my customers on. And I always say that a language, the language you use and the language you learn, and the language that for you is important, and that you like. How many times have we say, oh, I wouldn't have said that, or, oh, did you hear him? We have language that we like. And I always say that language, we have a language wardrobe, and the language wardrobe is like your wardrobe. You don't have things in your wardrobe. You don't buy them if you don't like them. You might not fit into them anymore, but that's another matter. But you have colors in your wardrobe. You have sizes, shapes, everything that suits you. And your wardrobe will be totally different to somebody else's. And if you are happy and confident and content with the language in your wardrobe, and it's like putting on a dress, if it looks good, you will get the results you want. People will be then connecting with you, and you'll be getting compliments and things like that. And it's the same with language. So language needs to be right for the purpose, like a suit, and it needs to be right for you. That means the color, the shape, the style.
Yeah, and I think from the story that you shared in Finding Closure, and also in what you do as your career and your business, I think like you spent a lot of your life growing up working out the language, but not just the language, the love language. Like you had this perfect love language with your dad and this very fractured love language with your mother, your adopted mother. And so you were always having to navigate how to get attention, how to get love, how to feel love. But I don't know, I'm just making this up in terms of what I believe kind of happened, but I believe that you overcompensated and became this like super over loving, connected, energetic, just this beautiful energy. Like you could have gone the other way and become shy and reclusive.
Bitter, maybe.
And you didn't. You became, well, you know, if I'm not receiving that, I'm going to make sure everyone else does. And you just have this amazing like vibe and energy that you pour into everyone and everything that you do. And so to me, that tells me that the situations and the environment that we're in can make us, break us, or shape us. And what you choose to be is completely your choice. And you could have chosen to go another way, but you didn't. And what you did was you actually, I just wonder if you hadn't have had that experience with your adopted mother, would you have built the business as strong as you have now, which is connecting people, connecting communities, connecting cultures, connecting companies? You're literally, you've created this whole thing that's all about connection, using language. And even whether you recognize this or not, you've even placed yourself in a situation where you've had to master a whole new language all over again. So you've gone from mastering love language to mastering physically a different country, a different culture, and now supporting other people to do that. Like when I say that to you, are you like, well, yes, of course? Or is it like, well, yeah, actually, that's a lot of big stuff that I've coped with and that I've managed? And like, I don't know, what do you think when I say that?
Well, I mean, I do think that yeah, you're probably right in many ways. And I also, you know, it's very, very important for me for people to be seen as who they are. And it doesn't matter which language. You know, it's really important for me if I can see, because I can very often see, you know, beyond the facade, as it were, you know, and I can see who they are and whatever. And quite honestly, sometimes it doesn't come out in the language, you know, and that especially with, I work with a lot of Germans, and especially with Germans, you know, the German language is very direct. The language itself is very direct. It's not necessarily the people. The people are just used to using it that way. And when I first got to Germany, I would say, oh, would you mind very much if we open the window? Now, that's no problem in English. The Germans thought I was completely mad. They said, you know, what they would have said is, can you open the window, please? That's all. Never anymore. You know, it could even have been, open the window, will you? You know, but it's the language, it's not the people. So in a language, there are different degrees of, you know, what you, of politeness and the way you say things. And I've been working with somebody in Japan just recently, and I've realized that, you know, the Japanese, again, it's such a big difference to English. And where we think we're being polite, we're probably not, you know.
Well, because it's not just language, it's etiquette as well, isn't it? There's an etiquette that comes with every language, every culture.
And language without, there is no language without culture and no culture without language. So, you know, the two need to go hand in hand. Daimler Chrysler, I can tell you this, Daimler Chrysler lost, and one of their they wanted to merge, and they lost $30 billion. That's what not with inadequate language and inadequate cross-cultural training can get you.
Wow. Well, I mean, we've got a couple of minutes now to focus on what we're going to do in your masterclass, which is coming in 2025. And one of the things that we were discussing was about each and every one of you who, whether you are wanting to rise in your organization and become more influential, whether you are an entrepreneur or a solopreneur or have dreams of becoming one, and you know that you're going to do something that does cross cultures. We're not communicating as human beings anymore because of online, because of social networks, because of all the opportunities we've got to go even bigger than we ever could before. You know, we're no longer just talking to our next door neighbor or the person at the bakery or the local store. We are communicating cross-culturally. We are communicating even on our doorstep. There could be like 10 different cultures in the buildings right next to me. Absolutely. It's no longer are we going to the world. The world is now coming to us. And so, Rosie, give us a little insight into what we can play with when we do your masterclass later in 2025.
Well, I think my chapter in the book is don't be afraid to build something bigger than you. So in the masterclass, we will certainly be looking at everybody's fears, what they fear, and changing their mindset, helping the people in the masterclass to see things differently. Because quite honestly, very often it is a matter of you being selfish if you don't offer that particular service or business. Think about it that way. So, sometimes the world needs you, so you need to get out there and do it. And so the masterclass will all be all about, hitting those fears on the head.
Knock them on the head and go more global in your thinking. I think that'll be a fabulous masterclass. We're looking at July 2025 for that. But guys and girls, go to that link. Make sure you've signed up to that link, because that way we can let you know who all of the masterclasses are going to be with over the next 12 months. I'm so excited. Rosie, thank you for making the time, for being with us today. I'm super, super juiced about your chapter. I can't wait for everyone else to read it and to go through your activity in there, because I think that mixed with when we get together again for the masterclass is going to create some monumental shifts for those that read it. Have you got any last parting words that you'd like to share with everybody before we go?
Only to say that I think that every single chapter in this book will be thought-provoking, and I think every single chapter in this book will take people to a different place, a place that maybe they've never been before. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be well worth reading. And of course, it's not just reading, it's going to be all the master classes. And, people shouldn't worry about, or shouldn't be afraid actually of, connecting with the authors. And, because I think the more the people read it and the wider it's spread, the more good it's going to actually create. So
yeah, that's really important, because yes, it's brilliant to be number one at the top of Amazon, to get your book as a number one bestseller, which I've no doubt that we are, like, while we're on here, that everything's ranking, people are buying the book, and there's a lot of energy around it. So hopefully we'll be able to give you a little update in the next couple of hours on where we are on that. But being number one ultimately isn't our core goal. It's nice to be there. What being number one does enable you to do is to impact and influence a lot more people, because more people are going to get access to you, more people are going to see you. So the best-selling status is nice to have, but for those of you that are buying the book, we thank you. For those of you that are sharing the book, we thank you. And the charity that we are supporting through the book is going to be very blessed with each of the donations that come in. So thank you for all that you're doing to help help us share this message and get this book out to everyone. Rosie, thank you once again for being with us. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you. And guys and girls, we're going to be back in a couple of minutes with our next incredible author. So get ready to rise. We'll see you there.